Hello everyone. Welcome to this AWE Nite Florence, this first AWE Nite Florence of 2025. AWE Nite actually happens in many cities in the world, more than 30 across all the corners of the world, US, Africa, Europe, even Australia. So that's pretty cool. And of course, we're all here to support the amazing event that's going to happen in Long Beach, AWS 2025. You can get a 20% off our 3-day pass using this code when you buy the tickets. And we will meet there because I will be there from June 10 to 12 in Long Beach, which is close to Los Angeles, in case you don't know. And then there will be, of course, United XR Europe, this new edition that mixes AWE and Stereopsia in December in the beautiful city of Brussels. And in February instead, you can come to Asha in Singapore in February and enjoy AWE also in this part of the world. So see you soon at AWE. In the meantime, I can also talk about AWE Academy, which always offers interesting courses like about fundraising or web AR, lots of topics about XR, entrepreneurship, etc. You can always check it out, everything on awxr.com. So I'm done with this presentation, and it's time for me to be back on stage. I'm Anthony Tillo, also known as the Scarred Ghost, here to support AWE Nite Florence. For the people that don't know me, I'm working XR since now 11 years. It's a lot of time, mostly as a developer and as a blogger. So you can find me on scarredghost.com if you manage to type correctly this weird nickname. But especially I'm here to support the amazing person that answers to the name of Cecilia Lascialfari, which is the main organizer of AWE Nite Florence. Cecilia, welcome on stage.
Thank you, Anthony, and welcome to AWE Nite Florence, and thank you for being here with us today. My name is Cecilia Lascialfari, founder of Aria6stuff.com, generative AI researcher and speaker, Women in AI Led Art and Creativity for Italy, Women in Tech Community Award for Italy, Artivive representative for Italy, international journalist, XR Women member, and AWE Nite Florence organizer. I want to tell you a short story, but important story about new technologies in the Renaissance period. During the 15th century, Florence and Tuscany became the most dynamic and innovative places in Italy, thanks also to their strategic geographic position, which connected the north and south. Here, a large community of artists, scientists, and thinkers worked to realize the innovative ideas of the time, anticipating the future. The Medici dynasty, thanks to their economic influence as bankers, played a fundamental role in the cultural and artistic development of the city, helping to transform Florence into an incomparable center of beauty and knowledge. However, if today we can admire Tuscany as one of the largest and most prestigious collections of Renaissance art in the world, we owe it above all to a woman, Anna Maria Luisa de' Medici, the last descendant of the dynasty. Although she was the legitimate daughter of Cosimo III, she was never officially recognized as her, due to the belief that a woman was incapable of governing a territory. This exclusion from the succession, despite being the only direct male descendant, led her to reflect on another kind of power she had: the power to decide the fate of her family's immense cultural heritage. With vision and determination, on 31 October 1737, she stipulated an agreement with the new Granduca Francesco Stefano di Lorena that took the name of Family Pact, establishing that all the works of art owned by the Medici family would be ceded to the new government, with the condition that they would remain forever bound to the city of Florence and the state of Tuscany. This agreement stipulated that nothing that was destined per ornamento dello Stato, per utilità del pubblico e per attirare la curiosità dei forestieri, for the ornament of the state, for the benefit of the public, and to attract the curiosity of foreign, would be transported or removed from the state of the Granducato di Toscana. With this gesture, Anna Maria Luisa understood that power was not only in governing a territory, but also in safeguarding cultural heritage and orienting the future. Thanks to her vision, today millions of people from all over the world can admire masterpieces that would otherwise have been lost. And isn't that exactly what the international community of the exile world are doing today? Preserving, innovating, anticipating the future on an international territory? Exhibition and events organized, the hardware and software created, the books published by professionals working in this field are the new form of digital renaissance. And this is why I'm happy to welcome three exceptional speakers today, Tom Emmerich, Alexandra Gerard, and Gabriele Romagnoli. I leave it to them to share their vision of the future with us. And now I'm happy to introduce Tom Emmerich, Senior Product Manager with over 15 years of experience in spatial computing, specializing in AR, VR, and wearables, worked with Meta and Niantic. Expert in platform strategy, ecosystem growth, GTM, product scaling from vision to reality. Acclaimed author of The Next Dimension, his speech is titled The Next Dimension. And welcome, Tom. It's a really pleasure to have you here.
Hi, everybody. I'm just going to try to share my screen. It's like the most scary part, so give me 1 second. Let's see here. While I'm doing this, thanks so much for the AWE community for inviting me here. It's my first time at Nite Florence. I'm unable to see any of my presentations on this device, so I don't know if we can get some technical support here. Let me see what I can do here. I'm going to upload this. Give me a second. While we do this, I'm going to kick things off so I don't need some time because I have to upload this presentation. Hi, my name's Tom, and I just wrote a book. My first book's called The Next Dimension. I've been in this space for now over 15 years, working as a product manager, as a journalist, as an investor. I want to talk a little bit about spatial computing and some of the insights from my new book, The Next Dimension. And my book, it starts talking a little bit about my background. In particular, I talk about this, here we go. I talk about the sound that I heard when I was a young adult. And the sound was the phone line being tortured to do things it didn't feel like it was supposed to do. And of course, this was the early 90s, and that sound was dial-up internet. And at the time, that was the sound of this next wave of computing at the time, which was the information age, the age of the internet, the age of the PC. And I wrote this book, The Next Dimension, to really create some noise and sound the alarm on the fact that we're hearing the sounds of this next wave of computing of today, which is spatial computing. And spatial computing, just like the waves of computing before us, is set to transform every aspect of who we are as humans, from work, life, and play. And it will promise to reacquaint us with presence as humans, as well as to reimagine collaboration and creation, and to rethink how we work and how we live in our everyday lives. So what's really interesting about us and our digital experience is that we ourselves are 3D creatures living in a 3D world, but yet the majority of our digital experience has been flat. It's been 2D. And this powerful and vast digital universe that we try to access on a regular basis, it's been stuck behind a pane of glass. And this creates a separation gap between us and technology. And this separation gap, this distance, it's creating a couple of challenges that we're going to overcome in this next wave of computing. The first challenge is that the separation gap, it does not allow for our computing to really understand what's going on in the real world around us. Computing requires us, it's reliant on us to feed it information about what's happening here in our physical dimension. This means that through our social media posts, Wikipedia pages, and other website pages, our vlogs and our blogs, we are letting computing know what's happening here in the real world. And it's become, I would argue, a little bit like a part-time job for many of us. And because this is not our job, we have other things that we're trying to do here in physical reality. The information that we're feeding the machines, it's not complete. And so these holes, these gaps in the information causes computing to not have all of the nuance and the context that it needs to understand what's truly going on. And this in turn, it leaves us with not really being able to get the true benefit out of the digital experience. In addition, as we are experiencing the digital world through these panes of glass, we're forced to resort to artificial interactions like tapping on a screen or swiping on a screen or using accessories like mice and keyboards. And this does not allow for us to have a tactile experience with the digital application. And that in turn really does not allow for us to connect with it. And so it often feels cold or emotionless, which is an issue. But I think the big challenge that stems from the separation gap between us and technology is that we as humans, we become quite distracted. We're not able to be in two places at once. And so our attention is being asked to be given to the digital moment or the digital world on our phones and our computers, such as what we're doing right now, staring at video conferencing. And that takes us away. It removes us from what's happening in the physical real world. Again, we can't be in two places at once. And so we end up being quite distracted. And when we're at the dinner table, for example, that feels very rude. And I think this is why often technology is seen as like the antithesis to humanity, is because of this gap. Now, this is all changing and it's happening now, which is great. And that is because we're entering the era of spatial computing, which promises to blend the digital with the physical and break computing free from that pane of glass. And this spatial computing will enable technology to understand, to interact, and to navigate 3D space. And in some cases, this is going to happen quite literally with robots and autonomous vehicles walking and riding on the roads alongside us here in this physical dimension. In other cases, with this barrier now down, we're able to enter the digital universe completely, as is in the case of virtual reality, or we're able to see the digital world spill into our physical real world, thanks to the power of augmented reality. Now, at the core and at the crux of the spatial computing wave is the growing ubiquity of sensors and the application of sensor data with perception AI systems. And this combination, it is granting computing with the gifts of presence and perception. I want to talk a little bit about these two things because these two P's are fundamental to what's happening with spatial computing. Presence occurs because sensors allow for computing to be here in the physical real world. LiDAR, cameras, microphones, the growing ubiquity of these sensors in our homes, in our work environments, on our face, out in public spaces. This allows for computing to be able to sense the world around it with these sensors. And therefore, it is going to free us up from that job that I talked about. We no longer need to feed the machine with information because computing is collecting that information on its own accord. And most likely, it's going to be more complete information, which means a brand new contextual computing layer will be introduced, which will level up all of our applications, Spotify, Netflix, and also birth brand new applications. But sensor data is just one part of the equation with spatial computing. The other part is the use of that data with AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning, through perception AI systems like computer vision, algorithms, object recognition, semantic spatial understanding, and so on and so forth. And this allows for computing to not just sense the world, but make sense of the world. And this is a complete paradigm shift, where instead of the computing just seeing, it recognizes. Instead of it just hearing, it understands. And this is fundamental to unlock new devices like robots, autonomous vehicles, and immersive interfaces like AR and VR headsets. Another key ingredient for spatial computing, this next wave, is 3D. Of course, we're talking about space, and our space is three-dimensional. And the creation of simulated worlds is necessary to do anything from train robots to create content for augmented reality and virtual reality headsets. And this will require new skill sets, new development tools and techniques, like the digital twinning of this world with Gaussian splats, or the creation of computer-generated environments through game engines like Unity and Unreal. And so if you're looking to ramp up your business and get ready for the spatial computing era, thinking about how to ramp up your team or to hire with 3D expertise and 3D experience is going to be key. In addition, in the flat computing space, we talked about these artificial interactions of tapping and swiping. Those are no more in spatial computing. We will have a new way to interact with our computers, and it will be much more natural, using our hands and our eyes and our voice. And of course, with all new waves of computing come new sets of devices. Hardware is brand new, and that is expected in the spatial computing wave. From a blanket perspective, I would sum up this new hardware in spatial computing in two buckets. Physical AI hardware, which is hardware that embodies AI, robotics such as humanoid robotics, delivery robots, autonomous vehicles, wearables that are embodying AI assistants like a Meta Ray-Ban, for example, are good examples of that category. Immersive interfaces is the second category. These are augmented reality and virtual reality headsets and glasses that allow for you to enter the virtual world or to blend the virtual with the physical in the case of mixed reality or augmented reality. The hero of the previous wave of computing was our PC, or more likely our laptop, and then our smartphone. The hero of the spatial computing wave is expected to be wearable technology. And we should expect to wear a constellation of wearable devices at any given time in order to give computing access to more of our senses to make the experience more immersive. But the hero of spatial computing is going to be head-worn wearables. And in the consumer space, we have two-track race with head-worn wearables that is happening. We have spatial computers, a la mixed reality headsets, Meta Quest 3, Apple Vision Pro, which feel a little bit like early PC days, clunky, kind of expensive, one per household. And then we have more the connected eyewear / smart glasses track, which includes any of the devices such as Meta Ray-Ban or Unreal, Roked. And these feel a little bit more like feature phones or early feature phones days, where they're not full computers that you're holding in your hand or wearing on your face, but they do specific tasks really well. Both of these categories and all of the hardware that I talked about will continue on its natural technological journey. And this will allow for us to see these devices get smarter, get more miniaturized, last longer, be more affordable, just like we saw in the previous waves before. Finally, before I hand it back off, I talked a lot about the different parts of the spatial computing stack from a technology perspective, but really at the core of the stack is you and the space around you. Spatial computing does not exist without space, sensing and making sense of that space, and that includes you and the things that are in this space. And so you are the input in this next wave of computing. You and what you're doing, who you're with, what you're interacting with is fundamental for input for anything from robots to AR, VR headsets. You are the controller. By wearing wearable technology, you're able to control all of these devices. And then you are also in complete control. You have complete agency with these experiences, charting your own course in virtual worlds or giving the tasks to autonomous vehicles and robots. So it's a really exciting time. This is just scratching the surface. If you're excited to learn a little bit more, I go into these concepts in my new book, The Next Dimension, and then also go more into how augmented reality in particular is transforming business. So I'll hand it back over to, I think Tony is coming on up. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thanks, Tom, for your amazing presentation. Always love to hear your insights. Now it's time to introduce on stage another great speaker, which is Alexander Gerard, who is the director of Stereopsia and the general manager of this new event called United XR Europe, which is going probably to be the first XR event in the capital of Europe, which takes place from the 8th to the 10th of December of this year in Brussels, so in Belgium. She is also a Belgian ambassador for Women in Immersive Tech and an event production expert. So, Alexandra, you're going to make a speech about United XR Europe and how it empowers the Europe's immersive ecosystem. So, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'll leave you the stage.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks for having me. Let me launch the presentation. Tell me if it's working. Okay, it worked earlier today. Doesn't seem to be working. Weird. Let me try again. Not fun. It works when we try, and then it just doesn't when we are on the spot. No, that's not fun. Okay. Any help in here? So I'll try to do the way Tom did, talking and working my PowerPoint at the same time. So I'm Alexandra. Oh yeah, it's actually starting to work, I think. Nope.
Just click on the present. No.
Doesn't want to. Okay. Does
Okay,
it work now? All right. Thank you. So, well, we've already discussed United XR, but I'm going to go back to where we come from, and then explaining how we got to get together and merge with AWE Europe. So there's a timeline. So Stereopsia started in 2009. So it's been a long time coming. And as you may know, stereopsia is stereo and opsis. It means perceiving immersion. So we've always been about the perception of dimension. And back in 2009, the technology that was available at the moment was 3D. So for a few years, we only talked about 3D. We had conferences, we had a scientific conference, we had demonstration, we already had awards, and it was all about 3D. And towards 2015, 2016, we really started talking about immersive technologies and having a lot more talks and panels about the impact of VR and AR into those talks, be it with the industry or with the content creators. As you may also know, in 2017, we answered with a few other participants in the consortium, in the tender, in the European Commission tender, to understand if XR was something that was going to last. The European Commission was wondering if it was something that they needed to invest in. So we applied to the tender and we won it, and we won it. And so this is how we founded XR for All, that later became XR for Europe, which is basically a federation of the associations and the people who work in XR or are interested in all kinds of immersive technologies, mainly in Europe, but anyone can apply from other countries as well. And so we have continued working on Stereopsia every year. It's a yearly event. It's always happened at the end of the year. It always happens in Brussels, the capital of Europe. And in in 2024, we started talking, Ori and I, and I'll get back to that a bit later in my slides. So Stereopsia has mainly been about the European perspectives, the policymakers, and to be able to talk about on a, well, I would say on a high level about ethics and interoperability and understanding the funding opportunities, and the also being a platform for the European XR associations, and also show the European funded projects, because we've always had this connection with the core European XR ecosystem. Talk about the industry, 4.0, be it logistics, training, and also we have this great scientific conference that is co-organized with the Fraunhofer Institute in Berlin. The third day has always been about the arts and the content and the culture and heritage. We also have a booster, which is an accelerator for early development, narrative contents. And of course, we have the awards. We've had the awards for the past 15 years. And through all that, we have an exhibition, the showcase. We have an EU village where we want to show those European XR associations and the EU-funded projects. And since 2024, we have a co-production market, which is called the EMIC market, and it's co-financed by the Creative Media Program of the European Commission. So this is basically what Stereopsia is all about. So talks, panels, workshops, a showcase of the best of the nominees for the awards. We have the expo, the demos, the showcase, the EU village, and the market, where it's basically a co-production market, B2B, pre-scheduled meetings. But so in 2025, Ori Inbar from AWE and I started talking, and we thought that it would be a better fit for the EU ecosystem to not have to choose between multiple events. And it goes the same way for speakers and exhibitors and sponsors and participants and all kinds of industries. You guys don't want to. We cannot go to all of the events. There are so many at the moment, and so we really thought it would be a great idea to go big and partner. So we did merge our two events. And our aim is definitely to bring together the best of both events. So more tracks, we're bringing to Stereopsia what AWE does best. So we are bringing their healthcare track, the enterprise, the AI, a lot more exhibition space. Of course, we want to have in Brussels their action-packed trade show, but also adding all their amazing programs. And also we're getting a bigger awards gala. But a word, as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So here's a teaser for our United XR Europe 2025. All right. So I hope this gives you an idea of what we want to be doing in December in Brussels. And as you can see, the program is expanding. So we keep the best of what Stereopsia does, European policy and a lot of the booster, the awards, but we're definitely bringing on a lot of the best from what AWE usually did in Europe, also in the US. So healthcare, developer and creator track, enterprise track, XR enablement, AI, of course, the builders nexus. So it will be a big event. It will be I really think it's going to be a game changer. Also, we're adding a new partner to our gala. It's AI XR. So we're adding more categories. We're also adding a lot of B2B categories, software, where Stereopsia usually is all about narrative content. So a lot of things are happening. Just so that we also have a lot of calls that are open at the moment. So let's make sure that you get involved and you are at the event with us. A quick overview of who attends. So we're expecting 2,000 participants, 150 exhibitors, 150 speakers, a lot of enterprise industries, both from the US and from Europe. Also from Africa and possibly other continents. You see the difference, the KPIs here. So we really want to have you all guys here to share this wonderful info on XR and help us get XR go mainstream, as Ari always says. So save the date and get involved. The dates are 8 to 10 December in Brussels, Belgium. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or to comment to me afterwards. Thank you. Leaving the floor back to Cecilia, I think.
Thank you, Alessandra. And now, please welcome to AWE Nite Florence, Gabriele Romagnoli, founder at XR AI Spotlight, showcasing the best of XR and AI for creatives and professionals, tech ambassador, podcast host, and speaker. His speech is titled A Framework for XR plus AI. Welcome, Gabriele. It's a really pleasure to have you here.
Grazie mille, Cecilia. Assolutamente. It's absolutely a pleasure to be here today and share the stage with the others. And look, I want to, let's say, go through, because we have heard today and probably yesterday, we're going to hear for much more this conjunction of XR and AI. So I've just been thinking for myself about how to put some order. So I've been in the XR space for around 10 years right now. You see me there, proudly owner of Original Vive. And it's been quite a wild ride. And especially recently, things have gone more or less like this. So when you read the headlines, it's always about the AI strategy from Apple melting down, like everything is going crazy, the future of content. It's all about buzzwords, and it's very hard to understand what is happening in this space, because everything gets in the same bucket. So what I try to do is I founded XR AI Spotlight to support founders and people that are in the space to understand how these two technologies are merging together. So it is XR AI Spotlight, and it takes different form. It is a newsletter. It is a weekly series of interviews. But when trying to do this, the question that I ask myself, how can I start putting things into buckets? How can my poor human brain, categorize things so that I can explain them better, or maybe approach them in a different way when explaining and or when testing these technologies? So what I try to do is to build a simple model that works like this. I think that when we look at it, we could split the way XR and AI combine to each other in 3 groups. One is when AI is used to build these virtual worlds, right? So we're going to explain more about it later. When AI helps understand the words around us, and so when it kind of like acts as the brain for XR. And then when the AI interacts with the users. So if we look at the bottom two as the foundations that then facilitate the top one, I think it's a good simplification of this. But let me go through some real example, right, to explain what I mean by this. So first of all, we're talking about AI to build virtual worlds. So I'm going to talk about this later on, but for now, there are many different ways in which AI can be used. And most precisely when developers take advantage of AI without having the user to even know or notice about this, to build the final or part of the final experience. This includes, for example, code. And we have seen like how Cursor or others are facilitating this, right? But it's about really coding this experience and the mechanics and the interactions and all the logic behind it. But AI can be used to create the 2D content, the sound, the music, even the voices, right? And this is usually what comes to mind, right? The 3D content, meaning the props, the characters, but we can think also beyond that, right? The environment, meaning the skyboxes or full scenes, or even the motion of those characters or those assets that are in space. But there is more. I mean, the AI, for example, can also be used for moderation. There is an example of an app called Pillow that allows that people to leave a message that the user can find. And when interviewing Lucas Risotto, who is the creator of this app available on the Meta Quest, he said that, for example, AI was used for moderation. And so finding and discarding the one that might not deem appropriate. So these are many ways in which AI can be used to build virtual worlds. And now let's say the words vibe coding, and this term is kind of like circulating everywhere. And so I decided to make a poll. You can now vote. You still have 1 day to vote. There are over 120 votes by now, and see how people feel about it. Because I think that a good 50% based on the last result were actually kind of like dismissive or felt like had the word vibe coding had negative connotation. So at least for them. So interesting. If you are here and you want to drop a vote or maybe check the results, you can just scan the QR code there. I just want to briefly touch on that side of 3D and motion, because we often think, okay, you write text or you write an image and then you come up with a 3D asset. But I think that there are many more layers to it, right? I mean, a tool like Meshy, for example, allows you to texture an existing 3D model. Other tool, like for example, CSM, allows you to instead in-paint a texture on a model. So here in this case, what you see here is that there is this texture from the right side is painted on the model and now is applied to the model on the left. There are also other examples where, for example, we see that other type of 3D models are used. In this case, this is a Gaussian splatting. So this is a 3D model that is turned into a mesh, and then the environment is used to run basically this racing game. And I think it's another way in which 3D scanning technology, supported by AI in this case, can then come up and support the creation of these virtual worlds. And of course, there is motions, and the motion, like from one camera, the motion from one camera, or maybe like just from text, can be turned and applied to a 3D model. So there are many that are now playing in this space. They all have their own twist to it. And I invite you, maybe if you are interested, to check any of this at your own time, because they trying all something different. Now, when we instead, let's go to the next slide. No, you just want to keep playing this video. Okay, no. So the other side was AI as the brain for XR. And of course, we all know this. I'm going to be here very quick. When it starts to understand the words, it understands the mesh, it starts labeling things. We are very familiar about it with our Quest. What feels less familiar is maybe the ability to have this, let's say, understand the dynamic environment around us, right? So this is like a demo of this depth occlusion. So it uses just this dynamic depth map that is created to occlude the digital content, making everything much more believable. And more recently, another example of dynamic tracking is made possible by the opening up of the camera API of the Quest, is the tracking of dynamic objects. In this case, a colored ball that you can play with. But it's not just this. There is also AI as a way to understand the user, right? So it's not just about the environment, but in this case, here it shows some research done by Meta where the input just from the camera that are on a glass can be used to infer the whole body pose of the user. This includes hands, gestures, if it's running or if it's walking. So in this case, I think that there are so many opportunities that AI allows to create more knowledge around the user and the environment. Now, this is last is about AI and user interaction, right? So the last part of the model, and in this case, it's like when the user actively interacts with the content and with an AI. So, for example, there are some interesting opportunities where now, again, thanks to the API, you have that you can kind of take pictures of the environment, and then diffusion model turns them into some form of stylized artwork. And all these are made possible because then this AI generation is quick, right? It is responsive. And so it is not, what I want to say is like when we think about user interacting with AI, it's not just about agents. There could be ways in which the user can interact. For example, generating procedurally generated, let's say, CDs or creation, like if you've seen in this other game called Townscaper, or maybe use cases where you ask, hey, help me brainstorm. This comes from another app called Noda that creates nodes that then the user can later on assemble as they want. So it's not just about agent, because agent, it's a weird word. These are some very good ones that I found: virtual speech, for example, Meetwall, Wisp. But I wanted to show you quickly this one because I think it's one of the few that I've seen that was particularly interesting interaction with an AI.
So how do you feel today?
I've been feeling really bloated and fatigued lately.
How long you have been feeling like this?
It's been a few weeks now, I think.
Did you measure fever before coming here?
No, I didn't check my temperature before coming.
Does it hurt?
No, it doesn't hurt at all.
Can you turn on the side?
This
Okay,
was the
I can turn
moment
on my side.
that really things clicked. I was like, wow, okay.
Let me warm this up for you, okay?
Thank you. That would be really nice.
There is no heartbeat.
Oh, that's concerning. What does it mean?
It's fine. Don't worry.
Okay, I'll try to stay calm. Thank you for reassuring me.
So that's a bit of a fun moment with the AI interaction. They always happen, but just to give you an example. So now, if you want to know more, remember to check my newsletter, because that's where a lot of these interviews are held. So this is, for example, interviews with the founders at the 3D of the 3D Gen AI space, like the founder of Meshi, Sloyd, Anything World, leaders in the Gaussian splatting space, as well as creatives actually building some of these impressive apps. So you can just go there, scan the code, and then check the past interviews if you are interested. So that's it. This is the triangle. I hope that might help you put some order, right? Looking at how AI can be used to build these virtual worlds, act as the brain for XR, but then also be a way for AI and user to interact. Now, I want to just draw one last parallel, because whenever we think about, for example, video, we always think that AI is going to take over Hollywood, right? But I think what is happening is something different. We have that there are some professionals that are integrating AI into their workflows in a very specific way for high production value content. There is some middle, like production quality content that still gets out and is, for example, like commercial music videos where AI does the heavy lifting. But there is a whole new genre of content on social media where anybody is basically can create and can become a creator. And I'm not sure I like any of this, but that is really what is happening. And my idea is what happens when we bring this to XR, right? So what happens when we look at the analog of what is happening for video to XR and, let's say, a VR headset or maybe AR headset? So there are certainly tools that are using, that are implementing AI, right? to create those AAA games, right? Ways in which it can help code. But what is the analog of that web, of that mid-quality, let's say, game, right? Is that web-based games? Is that what we're trying to do? And what about the total other kind of the spectrum, right? Where anybody can create it. I think we aren't there yet. And we are in some very interesting time. I mean, content is evolving faster than ever on new type of platforms and with unprecedented creative power. And actually, this is created by and for a new generation of AI natives. So it is very exciting to see how this moves forward. And if you want to keep following and stay updated and understand more about how this is unfolding, do not hesitate to check out XR AI Spotlight and maybe reach out on LinkedIn with questions. Always happy to collaborate together. Thank you very much, and curious to have a chat with everybody else.
So I guess thank you, Gabriele, for this great presentation. I'm still a bit puzzled about how can you reassure a patient if there is no heartbeat. I guess it doesn't last that much, the reassurance. Or maybe the patient was a cyborg. So I guess we can be back on stage with all the speakers. So to have a very short debate as the end of every AWE Nite Florence. We had great presentation, but maybe let's have a little chat. And I would like to start actually by a very recent topic, asking to every one of you, maybe in the order of speaking, so Tom, Alexander, Gabriele, maybe a short feedback opinion about the Google I/O event, because they made many news about AI, about smart glasses, XR, VR. So what's your take about this? Tom, you start.
Sure. I thought it was a really exciting I/O. One of the big takeaways for me is that Google was really showing us that this future of spatial computing is not going to be one device. They made a particular point to showcase that the augmented reality story is really a series of devices, ranging from headsets to glasses and a variety of glasses. And then by reintroducing now the commercial version of Project Starline, which is now called Beam, they're also indicating that we're going to be interacting with 3D and immersive content without wearable devices, but with spatial displays. And so to me, I think that was one of the biggest takeaways. Very exciting.
Alex, for you?
Sorry.
No, I asked about the Google I/O. If you have some thoughts about what has been announced, or maybe you're just excited, whatever you want to say about it.
Yeah, just excited about, yes, new technologies, new advancements. It's always good. That's what the ecosystem needs, for sure.
That's amazing. Gabriele, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know. I'm still trying to figure out, understand, for who is this Muhan? This is a question that I don't understand. Like, for what kind of person or user is going, this is geared towards, right? I think that we also see where Apple positions themselves coming forward. But it's like, who should get one, right? Is that like for businesses? Is that like for, again, the enthusiast? Because then is that for the productivity side that maybe are not into the Apple system? I'm just curious about the immediate future, right? And I think it's exciting. I think Tom made a good point. It's about a range of device, and this gives perspective. But what about end of the year? What's going to happen? I mean, for who is this? That's something that I'm still very confused about.
Well, I guess we'll understand maybe from the applications that will be announced for it, because for now, I have the same thought as you, actually. It's like, it's too expensive to be like for everyone. It's too cheap to be for the big professionals like the Vario headset. So what is it for? Maybe it's just a start. I don't know. Let's see. So, as usual, I will ask questions to one of you, but feel free for the others to intervene and say your opinion in case you have something to add to an answer. So I would like to start actually with Tom again, and because we talked a lot about the various terms, AI, AR, spatial, etc. But there is a term that actually we put in the name of the event as becoming a bit trendy. People like buzzwords, which is spatial intelligence. And I would like to hear from you maybe to explain people what is it, why you think it's relevant, maybe why you think it's not good and it's just hype. I mean, again, whatever you want to say about it.
I like the term spatial intelligence. I'm not a fan of adding too many buzzwords in the mix because we already have so many of them. But I think, what's different about spatial computing and what we're talking about here from what's happening with Gen AI is that we're introducing the physical world as an input. That's like the big paradigm shift. So if you use ChatGPT, for example, which is extremely powerful, and you just insert text, or if you're talking to it, you are using generative AI and AI, but it's still a very flat experience, and the AI is really not sensing the world and making sense of the world to allow for that nuance and context to be leveraged. And so I think that this big shift with spatial intelligence is through the use of multimodal AI, where the sensors become active, especially cameras in particular, that give these AI agents or the AI assistants the eyes, for lack of better words, that they can see what's happening. And I think the combination of us talking to the assistants, whether we're typing or speaking, and these assistants having cameras to be able to collect information on their own accord is really what's going to create this next stage for computing. It allows for us to get much more benefit from our technology than we have before. And so, that's how I take spatial intelligence. Although I have to say I haven't really seen it be used too much, so I might be out of the loop. This is maybe my first time.
No, I think you made a good point also, and you know why? Because I think it's not working yet, very little. Like in a sense, I think that these, whatever digital content is kind of like a touch there, but it has no awareness of anything around, and actually is usually in the most awkward place. That's where it ends up, right? So I think that there is no spatial intelligence, and that's probably why you're like so far that we don't hear and talk about it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what I do like about this word is I think it's interesting because AI is such a focus this year, last year, probably next year, moving forward, to start to remind industry that the immersive category is rooted in AI. And so, because oftentimes it's like, okay, AR, VR, and AI, like they're separate things. I think Gabrielle did a really good job of showing how they're being used together. But really, Matt Meisenix, who is one of the partners at Super Ventures, which was a VC fund that I was with Ori and Matt a long time ago, he used to say that AR and VR is the GUI of AI. And I think like this thinking is necessary. Like we were working in the AI business, we're just using it in different ways, and we're using it more from a spatial intelligence perspective. So I like that. I think like the more we can remind folks that we're working already in AI, this is part of spatial computing, which is the bigger umbrella, the better. So big fan of that.
That's been very interesting. And Gabriele, since you are intervening about that and about the relationship also with between AI and AR and understanding of the world, I mean, we've seen you have worked with Shapestar. I mean, you are for sure in touch with a lot of the creative part, let's say, of the XR ecosystem. And, there is a lot of talking about that the world can become your canvas, since you have the understanding of the world. You can have some AI that help in generating content, AI to visualize it. What's your take about this? Is it just a dream or is it happening for real?
I mean, I think it's real. I think that people are using, I mean, the moment that you have a Quest 3S and anybody can start creating on top of the real world, I think that it is happening. And the question is a bit like, for what purpose? And I think that is the question. So what are people creating? For what specific? Are they sharing it? Are they building a following thanks to this content that's being shared? I think that's still to be defined. From a practical perspective, this is totally possible, and it's possible with Shapes XR, it's possible with Gravity Sketch, it's possible with Figmin, and I mean there is so much possibilities that is But then the question, it remains there, and that's a bit something that is to be determined in a way. Like what is this content? What is all creativity going, right? And something that is probably maybe one of the reasons why it hasn't exploded as much as I would have wanted, because that's also probably the point. What next? I think there is still time and maybe that is a question that the Android XR could solve. In a sense, the moment that there are multiple devices that can see and access this content in a different format, then there is more incentives from people to start creating. Because otherwise, what do I do with all this time, with all this creativity, if I cannot share it or other people cannot experience it? The other place where they can go is the web. And then we know that it's not really the same thing, right? Experiencing whatever you have made on a 2D screen.
Yep, totally agree with you. And Alexander, you had this journey about the possibilities, etc. You are, of course, at the capital of European Union, and for sure you're very close to what's happening there. And I think that there is a lot of debates in Europe and outside about regulations on AR. What is needed to regulate, or maybe what we shouldn't regulate to let the creativity flow, and maybe more startups to come. So what's your take on this? What you are seeing happening in the European Union? What should happen, in your opinion?
Crystal ball. Let's see. That's a big question. There are a lot of talks. Currently about virtual worlds, of course, about partnerships, and how to integrate those technologies into the industry. For example, Siemens, who is now the touch points, the company that's responsible for the partnership for the European Commission. So I think a lot of things are going to move, like barriers. We're going to move in the next few months and years, in Europe at least, because the European Commission is still trying to understand a lot of what's happening in AI and in the virtual worlds. Let's not calling the metaverse, please. There's also this AR VR coalition, so they're really interested in the matters. So that since 2017, the European Commission is really interested in all matters, in all things related to immersive technologies, which is a great thing. Of course, we regulate more than in the US or in Africa. I was just there yesterday, or in Asia, I think. We are big regulators, but it's also a good thing. The big talks are usually ethics and interoperability, and well, let's see. I mean, it's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, let's see how it turn out to be. But since you mentioned about your many trips, can you say maybe something about I don't know, the differences between the ecosystems of AR in the various parts of the world you visited? I don't know if you see that people are moving maybe in different directions or have different mentalities. What's your take on this?
Thank you for the questions out of the blue. I was just in Africa a few days ago, and it's incredible how far along they are, and I don't think we know enough how far certain countries of the world are working with AR and VR. There are so many XR centers already happening in many places. I mean, of course, the Europeans are the. I mean, I really think there's a different point of view whether you are in the US and in Asia, which I cannot talk about because I don't know enough, and Europe, of course. Europe is very, very divided into cultures and different languages, and so we don't have like one big huge market as the US could have. So we have a different way of thinking things through in terms of industry or in terms of upscalability. Yes, that's all I can say.
Yeah, makes sense. By the way, talking about the different things and the fact there's not only one market. I was because I'm currently in China for people watching this this live, and I've been to this event in Shanghai. I've been assigned a translator because like half of the companies there were not speaking English. So because they are referring just to the Chinese market, and there are also some interesting companies to watch. So it's we need to do probably something also to be more united in a way. Like also is the name of your event, by the way.
Exactly.
And talking about what I've seen at the event, for instance, one of the big trends now is smart glasses everywhere, XR, AI. In China, there are millions of clones of smart glasses. So maybe, Gabriele,
So,
since you mentioned...
why did you need a translator? Because one of the things that every of these glasses are actually saying is that you can just listen and there is the automatic translation. So maybe they are not that good after all, the one.
Oh, I have a lot of fun stories of booths selling AR glasses with translation, not using them themselves, and just not being able to speak. That's super funny. So probably they don't trust the translation themselves, or maybe, I don't know, they don't think about using it. So, Gabriel, what do you think about this technology? Do you think it's just a random hype, or that can be really the way to start introducing contextual AI in our lives?
I think it does, and I think it will happen. And the point is that we need to start thinking from a more utility side. I mean, there is a lot of excitement, for example, about the spectacles, and or when you see, for example, Orion, it's like all these games. I think that those are not the things that maybe at the beginning, yes, that's what will get people excited. But to wear that, you will need to find a proper use, something that, in all honesty, goes also beyond the Google map, going turn left, turn right. We need to find better ways to just imagine how we interact with, in a moment where digital content can be placed anywhere. I believe it, and I think we need that transition where people start experimenting and learning, like a bit was with VR, right? I mean, now it's established. It's a great gaming platform. It's great for simulation, and that's for sure. Do people really collaborate in VR or co-create? I think less than what I wish personally is actually I would have wanted. But it is true that you can play amazing game. It's unbelievable. And you can have simulation that are close to real, right? So similarly with the AR glasses, that's going to be a stepping stone that will allow us to understand, okay, now we understand what we can actually do with it and create use cases that revolve around making our life easier, right? And bringing value to what we do every day. That's the only reason why we are going to wear that the whole day.
Well, you told about use cases. Actually, we have here Tom, which I love the content he shares all the time about use cases of AR on LinkedIn, etc. So maybe, Tom, just to close this short debate, can you tell us about some use cases of which these technologies, which are futuristic, are already useful today? Maybe?
Mm-hmm. I think if we want to talk about utility and use case, we should talk a lot more about the enterprise and what's happening in the enterprise. I mean, those stories aren't being told as much because of NDAs, and they're busy being used for work rather than for PR. But from from healthcare all the way through to manufacturing, automotive, and also within the brand, our marketing and advertising space, augmented reality and virtual reality is moving the needle and really showing how it can increase conversion or reduce errors and omission, really supercharge employees and their ability to do work. And so while the killer app for consumers right now, may be gaming, and we're looking for more of those killer apps on the consumer side, I think just like the previous waves before, PC and even early phone found its use at work and it proved itself at work. And then, dad and mom brought the device home and kid found Snake, and that's kind of how it took off, So I think that we're just seeing history repeat itself, and that's to be expected.
Makes totally sense. So really, I would like to speak with you for hours, but the time is up. So thank you, Gabriele, Alexander, and Tom, for what have you have told all of us and for this fun debate. And thank you also all the viewers. And before leaving, anyway, let me call on stage again Cecilia so she can say the official goodbye to everyone.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Gabriele. Thank you all for being here with us today. AWE USA 2025 will be at Long Beach Convention Center in California from 10 to 12 June. See you in California with Anthony, and see you also with me in Brussels, Belgium at United XR Europe from 8 to 10 December 2025. See you soon also at the next AWE Nite Florence event. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Bye. Thank you.
再见。